Hi guys, today I'm thinking about the World Cup for the cost of living. It's that time again when we all get behind the national team, huddle into the tent in the beer garden, drape massive flags out of our windows in our houses, and drive around in our cars with flags flailing in the wind. And our hopes get higher and higher as we progress through the competition, culminating in a huge win for the team at the end. Well, here's hoping anyway. But what if there was a World Cup for the cost of living of all of the countries of the world? The following is a three-part series which looks at a set criteria for each country to rate them which countries are the best to live in for a set cost of living group. The groups are named A to L, just like the World Cup groups. The first group, which is Group A, is the lowest cost of living tier and includes all of the countries less than $600 per month for a single person. The other groups shown in this video are Group B, which is $600 to $800 per month. Then Group C, which is $800 to $1,000 per month. At the end of the table there is a summary of the countries which progress to the next round from the three groups A to C. The remaining group and the results will be shown in parts 2 and 3. The countries are then selected from the highest number of points achieved, and the top 3 progress to the next round. The countries with the highest number of points and the winners of the groups may surprise you. So just on the spreadsheet here, so we have Group A. So all of the countries in this first group have a cost of living of less than $600 per month. So in the first column we have the country, then we have the average cost of living in dollars per month for a single person, and then the average cost of living in pounds for a single person, and then the cost of living in euro. And then we have the population, the Human Development Index figure, which is a figure out of 1.0, so 1.0 being the best development in the country. And then we have the quality of life, so the quality of life score is out of 100, so 100 being the best. And we have the Freedom Index score, which is out of 10, so 10 being the best. And then we have the life expectancy in the country, the type of tax system, the percentage of English speakers, the crime index score, which is out of 100, so 100 being the worst, having more crime. And then we have the safety index score, which is out of 100 again, so 100 being the best, so more safety in the country. And then we have the corruption index score, which is a score out of 100, so 100 being the best, so the least corruption. And then we have the US News ranking, which is a ranking of the best 100 countries in the world. So then the countries are assessed on the criteria of human development being over 0.7, which has a green. And then we have 50 or over for the quality of life gets a green, over 6 for the freedom index, over 70 for the life expectancy. A territorial tax system gets a green, and then we have percentage of English speakers over 25 gets a green, more than 60 for the crime index score gets a red, so anything less than 60 is a green, less than 50 is a red for the safety index score, so more than 50 is a green, the corruption index score less than 40 has a red, so anything more than 40 has a green. And then the US News ranking gets 1 point. So as we head down the table, the cost of living increases. And the first country on our list to be ranked as relatively high in points is Egypt. So the Human Development Index figure in Egypt is 0.754, and we have the life expectancy, which is just over our 70 threshold with 71.6, and we have percentage of English speakers, which is higher than 25 at 35. The crime index score is less than 60, so it gets a green with 46.4, and then we have 53.6 for a safety index score, so that's a green. And then we have the US News ranking for Egypt, which is 80 out of 100, so that gets 6 points. So the next country on the list to get 6 or more is Tunisia with 6 points. And then we have Belarus, which also gets 6 points. And then we have Indonesia, which has a cost of living of $575 in dollar per month, which is £431 or €495. So Indonesia gets 7 points. And then we have Sri Lanka, which also has 7 points. So we then assess the two countries to see which one has the best criteria of the two, and in this case Sri Lanka has the best criteria and is the winner of Group A. So we then move on to Group B, which has a cost of living between $600 and $800 per month. So the first country on the list to get a score in this case, in this group, which is either 7 or 8, are the highest ranked. So we have the Philippines with 7. So the Freedom Index score was 6.6. They have a territorial tax system, 63% of English speakers, 43.5 crime score, which gives a safety index score of 56.5, and the US News ranking was 78 out of 100 for the best countries in the world. So we then have Ukraine, which gets a score of 7, and we have China, which also gets a score of 7. So the cost of living in China is $650, which is £488 per month, or €559 in euro per month. So we then come to North Macedonia, which has a score of 8. So the human development was 0.815. And the quality of life score is 58 out of 100, which is not the best, but it meets our criteria. And we have a Freedom Index score of 7.64, a life expectancy of 75.3. The percentage of English speakers is relatively very high, with 54, and the crime index score is 41.4, which means the safety index score is 58.6, and the corruption index score is borderline at 40, but it just about gets a green. So we have 8 points, North Macedonia. And then we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, which also has 8 points. So the two countries are assessed, and Bosnia and Herzegovina comes out on top. So that's the winner of Group B. We then move on to Group C, which has a cost of living per month of between $800 and $1,000. So the first country that scored high was Malaysia. Malaysia has 10 points, which is the maximum number of points achievable. So Malaysia scores high on every category of the table. So the Human Development Index figure was 0.819. Quality of life is 68 out of 100. The Freedom Index is 7.11. The life expectancy is 76.7. It's a territorial tax system. 57% of English speakers. The Crime Index score is 48, which means the Safety Index score is 52. The Corruption Index is 52, and the US News ranking gave Malaysia a rank of 41 out of 100, which is relatively very good. So Malaysia is the winner of Group C. So the other countries that scored high in Group C were Moldova with 8 points, Thailand with 8 points. So in Thailand, the country was let down by the Corruption Index score, which is 33 out of 100, which is 7 less than the score required of 40. And it also has a progressive tax system, so it didn't get the mark for a territorial tax system. And then we have Jordan, which scored 9 out of 10, which is very high. And we have Georgia, which has also scored a 10, along with Malaysia. So the two countries were assessed, and Malaysia comes out on top. So we then have Romania, which achieved 9 points. And then we have Bulgaria, which also got 9 points. So the summary table shows the top 3 countries out of each group. So the top 3 out of Group A were Sri Lanka, Indonesia and Tunisia. And then we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia and China out of Group B. And then we have Malaysia, Georgia and Romania out of Group C. So these are the teams that go forward into the next round. So the outcome is that Sri Lanka is the winner of Group A, which was a cost of living of less than $600 per month, and was the best rated of the two countries, which received 7 points. Bosnia and Herzegovina is the winner of Group B, and the best rated out of the two countries, which had 8 points. Malaysia was the winner of Group C with a massive maximum of 10 points. Of the countries moving into the next round, there were only 2 countries which achieved 10 points, which were Malaysia and Georgia. Only 1 country had 9 points, which was Romania. 2 countries had 8 points, which were North Macedonia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And 3 countries had 7 points, which were Sri Lanka, Indonesia and China. The countries which go forward to the next round are the top 3 from each group, which were Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Tunisia from Group A, which was less than $600 per month. Then we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia and China from Group B, which was $600 to $800 per month. And finally we have Malaysia, Georgia and Romania from Group C, which was $800 to $1,000 per month. Okay guys, that was the World Cup for the cost of living, part 1 of 3. I'll see you on the next one.